He's just a vile creature. The worst thing on the face of the earth. But anyway.
You think he's the worst thing on the face of the earth?
I do, yeah. I do.
Why is that?
Howdy, y'all. I'm Brylan. This is a dark moment in America's history, and I don't mean that in a hyperbolic way. What we witnessed last night is a travesty that will have detrimental effects not just on the states that held elections, but on America as a whole. At the same time, we can't forget that God is sovereign and in control. That is an absolute truth, and his will be done no matter what. And it's always for his own glory and for the good of his people. However, that doesn't mean that we should be ignorant to what is going on around us. We still need to fight for the truth and for our freedoms. In this video, I'm going to show you how last night's elections go much deeper and are much darker than what is being reported. But first, I want to share something that I think can change your life for the better. You know, the Fed just dropped the interest rates again, and that's really great news for American homeowners. If you're feeling overwhelmed thinking about the upcoming holidays, there is no better time than now to get your finances in order. It's hard to think about the holidays when everything is really expensive and your credit cards are already pushed to the max. With rates dropping now is the time to pay off that debt. American Financing is helping homeowners access the equity in their home for instant savings. They're saving people just like you an average of $800 a month. That's massive. And many are seeing rates in the low fives. That's a game changer compared to those sky-high credit cards. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you extra breathing room for the holidays. It costs absolutely nothing to find out how much you can save. You know, Thanksgiving and Christmas are going to be here before you know it, so don't wait. Call their salary-based mortgage consultants today. American Financing, 866-887-1201. That's 866-887-1201. Or go to americanfinancing.net/rigs. Now, once again, Trump is demanding action from the GOP to end the filibuster, he says, as soon as this afternoon, which would be fantastic if the GOP, if Republicans weren't slimy swamp creatures that were spineless and do absolutely nothing that they say they are going to do. You know, that's one of the things that actually makes them worse than the left is how weak and ineffective they are. Republicans aren't the saviors of America. Only God can save America. But Republicans are worthless in a lot of ways, and there are some good ones. But as a whole, they are just a different side of the same coin as the radical left. At least the radical left takes action in wanting to destroy America, while the GOP does nothing to try to save America. Nothing of any real consequence. In fact, we're seeing what happens when the GOP are just weak. We see things like, well, the fact that the Democrats just took Virginia, an absolute trifecta win. Now, Virginia and New Jersey and New York had their elections last night. And after Charlie Kirk's assassination, we saw an overwhelming call for more of the radical left destruction that we've witnessed in recent years and recent months. And you would think that people would wake up. However, we're seeing that it's literally just an absolute mind-blowing, outright victory for the left. The left dominated. And again, I want to say, it's not just like Democrats won. No, the radical left agenda overwhelmingly won last night. For starters, we see in Virginia that the left outright own Virginia now. They're now entering a time where conservatives have zero say or influence. The radical left, Democrats who want you dead, rule Virginia fully and wholly. There is nothing in Virginia now that has any type of conservative influence or conservative sway. Abigail Spanberger won the governorship. The lieutenant governor was won by a radical leftist as well. And just a little cherry on top, Jay Jones, remember? The guy who fantasized about literally taking your life away from you if you're a Republican or a conservative. He's going to be the Attorney General of Virginia now. And stunningly, only 3% of Democrats changed their votes. So not only does Virginia now have a radical left governor, a radical left lieutenant governor, and a radical left attorney general who wants to kill conservative children, but Democrats also flipped 13 of the seats and gained 13 seats in the Virginia House. So now they have 64 of the 100 seats. So yeah, it was an absolute bloodbath in Virginia. And it wasn't just Virginia. We're going to talk about New York as well. And California. Just incredible what happened in California. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Just a little reminder, Jay Jones is the one where these text messages were leaked. He literally says that if those guys die before me, I will go to their funerals to pee on their graves. And he doesn't just stop there. He says if there were 3 people and he only had 2 bullets, Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert, his the person he was running against, he said that he would give both bullets to Gilbert. Do you get it yet? Are we getting it yet? In fact, he actually went on to say that he would want to see the children of these conservatives die in their parents' arms. Ali Bestaki said, Democrats in New York City and Virginia, please bookmark this for a year from now. The South is full. Florida's full. Texas is full. Tennessee is full. Georgia's full. South Carolina is full. Live with your vote and don't come down here. Thanks. Yeah, I agree. I'm so sick of people voting for insane radical left policies in their state and then fleeing that state when it becomes so bad to live there. And then they flee that state and go to a more conservative state and vote the same way that destroyed the state they just fled from. But of course, some of the biggest news of the night was that Mamdani was elected to be the mayor of New York. So New York opted to elect a radical left Islamic communist that hates America and actually vowed to literally disband a counterterrorism agency in New York because stopping radical jihadists is racist. That's the radical left mindset for you as well. In fact, it was so bad in New York that conservatives were actually endorsing Cuomo, which is just wild. I mean, now if we're being honest, Cuomo is the lesser of 2 evils. He would have been the better choice. Can't believe. Oh, man, it feels weird even saying that. Cuomo would have been the better choice for New York over Mamdani. I mean, it would have been just bad or worse. And hopefully this will be a wake-up call. But, you know, when this kind of stuff happens, it doesn't necessarily just turn around and next time we'll vote differently. No, there's going to be consequences that completely and utterly not just destroy New York, but destroy the ability to change it as well. That's what people don't truly understand. Michael Knowles said the saddest part is he'd never have won were New York full of New Yorkers. What's interesting is New York is about 48% of New Yorkers were actually born in New York. And Cuomo and Sliwa got about 48% of the vote. So it's wild. This is exactly what the left wanted. And it shows that they are the whole agenda of importing the third world, bringing it and allowing them to control every major election from here until the rest of time in America is still in full swing ahead. It's still happening. Even though Republicans, the GOP, have complete and utter control right now, it's still happening. One of the most terrifying parts of Mamdani's winning was his victory speech, his acceptance speech, where he actually quoted a man named Eugene Debs. This man was a radical left socialist who actually lost his citizenship after being convicted of sedition in 1918. This man was a radical through and through. And it is the very thoughts and actions of this man that inspire the Mamdanis and the radical left as a whole in this socialism push in America. In fact, Debs, who supported the violent communist revolution in Russia in 1917, was deeply influenced by Karl Marx. Had his citizenship restored, actually, by a joint resolution of Congress in the 70s. From 1900 to 1920, Debs ran for president 5 times. He described capitalism as a monstrous system and said that his Socialist Party was defined by a militant spirit and revolutionary goals. This is who Mamdani is, and it goes much deeper and much worse than this. Debs was a monster, and we're seeing somebody that is Debs 2.0 actually being elected to be the mayor of one of the most powerful city, if not the most powerful city in America. So yeah, this whole agenda of destroying America from the inside has been a goal for these leftists for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. In fact, Saul Alinsky, who was Hillary Clinton's mentor, he literally talked about this exact same thing happening, where the Mamdanis would be elected. They would slowly gain power. And Alinsky knew that it wasn't going to happen in his lifetime, but he didn't care. He said he was okay with it not happening, but he knew it was going to happen. It was going to be a slow but sure process of the destruction of America from within. And that's what he taught everybody around him that he had influence over to understand and to accept that they had work to do. It wasn't going to be done quickly, but it was going to be done. In fact, C.S. Lewis said, of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. What's really interesting is just how the left are at the same time eating themselves. You see Deborah Messing, who's famous from Will and Grace, not much else, but she thinks she still has some relevancy. And just to give you a little insight into who she is, she has pronouns in the bio. She was actually campaigning for Cuomo, and the left is eating her alive because she didn't endorse and accept Mamdani. And in fact, they're calling her Islamophobic, of course. Look, Deborah Messing is having a meltdown about Zohran Mamdani. They literally are saying that one of the most recognizable faces advocating for Cuomo in his final push was Deborah Messing, who has spent the past 48 hours posting Islamophobic content and misinformation about Mamdani on her Instagram stories. When even a pronoun in the bio radical leftist who hates America isn't radical enough for the left, when do we finally say, hey, we're going to fight for the truth, for our freedoms? Not only is Virginia, New Jersey, and New York, have they just been absolutely radicalized and completely taken, but California's redistricting ballot measure overwhelmingly passed. It just goes to show how absolutely lost California is. I used to live in California, born and raised. Left that state a few years ago because we literally could not raise our children there anymore. We looked at them and said, there is no future here for them. And California's had one of the biggest mass exodus of any state that we've ever seen. California is still overwhelmingly passing measures to make California even more radical. Nancy Pelosi just said this about Trump leading up to these elections. Listen to what she had to say.
It's just a vile creature. the worst thing on the face of the earth. But anyway,
You think he's the worst thing on the face of the earth?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Why is that?
Because he's the president of the United States and he does not honor the Constitution of the United States. In fact, he's turned the Supreme Court into a rogue court. He's abolished the House of Representatives. He's chilled the press. He's chilled the press. He's scared people who are in our country legally.
He's the most vile creature on the face of the earth. And he's the worst thing that has ever existed. Because he's the president, and then she goes on to state a bunch of things that aren't true. They're like verifiably false. And they are everything that Nancy Pelosi and the left have literally done and are continuing to do. It's just the hypocrisy is just wild. And people still hear a woman like this, a vile woman like this, and think she's telling the truth. It really goes to show that Romans 1, when it says that man suppresses the truth, and they are without excuse in this as well. There is no excuse. When it says in 3 different times that God has given them over to their lusts, God has given them up to dishonorable passions, and God has given them up to a debased mind. That doesn't mean that they have an excuse now. They are without excuse, Romans 1 says here in verse 20, because they suppress the truth, and they know what they are doing. And even though they claim to be wise, they became fools and have been given over to the most wretched, evil imaginable, to where it's so bad it literally says that these things are not evil enough for them and they have to actually invent new ways of committing evil acts. Pray that Christians would wake up and stop falling for the satanic lies that they aren't allowed to be involved in politics or in the way that society is shaped. That's a lie from Satan. Christians should be involved in politics. Christians should be involved in shaping society, bringing society to the Word of God and allowing our policies and laws to be passed that honor God and the truth of His Word. Christians must be involved. But hey, let me know your thoughts about all this in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, join this community. I would love to hear from you on a regular basis. And please hit that thumbs up button. You know when you like this video, to get pushed out to more people, and it would really help spread the truth. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.